It's morphin' time!
Hello, this is Soundout here, and welcome back to another Digimon SH Figuarts review. Today we'll be taking a look at Dukemon/Gallantmon Rebirth of Holy Knight. Now, I have previously looked at the Omegamon Premium Color Edition, which I also included a history of Digimon Figuarts there, and I've looked at the Alphamon Premium Color Edition with the Oryuken mode parts. So we've kind of gone from repaint with an upgraded cape, to a retool that includes new parts, to a brand new mold. And what's exciting is that this isn't the last brand new mold of the Digimon Figuarts line, but there is Angemon coming up as well. I did forget to mention, there is an Imperial Dramon Premium Color mode that I have not reviewed because it's the same mold as the regular Imperial Dramon, it's just in shinier paint, and I didn't feel like getting it. But the Dukemon Gallantmon here is released as a premium Bandai exclusive in Japan, but in the US and Canada, it is a general release, so you can pick it up from most retailers, which should hopefully make it easier to find for those looking for it. Same kind of box style as usual, the two colors with the silver in the middle. So you have the three color idea, the primary color Digimon and the secondary colors matching up. On the back, you can see some very good pictures of the figure in multiple poses and different just details and other things. On the side, you can see the Dukemon Gallantmon. I do appreciate that it does show that Digimon is a global brand, so they put the original Japanese name, Dukemon, as well as the dub name, Gallantmon, which is used in a lot of the English materials. This definitely shows that Bandai is taking a more global approach with Digimon, which is always nice to see. So enough of me rambling about the packaging, let's take a look at this guy. I did want to note that right out of the packaging, you can see that everything's in a plastic tray, except for the cape and the stand base, which are in a separate plastic bag. But everything is nicely and neatly packed, like you'd expect from an SH Figuarts release. So there is some mild assembly out of the box that's required to get this guy fully assembled. First of all, his little like head tail thing has to be plugged in, which is just a little connection peg. It does seem like it does, stay in there pretty snug, and it does stay out of the way. And then the other part is the cape, which you can see here is actually just plastic, but if you notice, much like the Alphamon and the Omegamon, it doesn't just plug in, you actually need to flip it backwards like this so the cape is hanging over it, and then you can plug it in. I'm going to leave it off of him for the moment because I do want to take a look at the articulation before I plug that clip in, but this is honestly a really, really cool figure. So looking at his head, I've always loved the design of this where he's got the knight helmet, but then he's got Gallantmon's sort of head design with the ears to the mouth plate. Like you can kind of see the evolution of little Gallantmon here into Gallantmon or Dukemon. I'll be flip-flopping the names. I apologize in advance. But you can see the little teeth, the little eyes, little wings for the ears. It's very much like Gallantmon is now kind of evolved, and I like that visual symbolism is the tie-in factor, because sometimes Megas for Digimon don't have any elements of the rookies they evolve from. So it's really cool to see an element like that. Of course, he's still got the pretty goofy-looking eyes, which I think is always great. And then, of course, you got the Digital Hazard logo. Some really nice reds and golds here for the shoulder pads, especially down to the elbows. And then you can also see that it's got that symbol again on the hands, which is nicely molded and painted in, which just looks excellent. And then once again, the Digital Hazard logos on red with gold trim. Also, the gold trim at the hips is really nice, and the red straps. It's always funny they added straps to this guy, because he's pretty knight armor, but then they're like, nah, we still need the straps and buckles. It's a Digimon staple. I think the feet are really well done too. They've got kind of more of a boot design than some other Gallantmon figures have had, and I do like that, especially the gold to the red. And then the overall like silver gray color, it's sort of pearlescent, but not quite the pearlescent that used to yellow on older Bandai figures. So I really do like that because it definitely looks really nice. So it's got that premium feel that a lot of the premium color figures have. Now articulation-wise, this is where things get a little crazy. So the head, it's on a ball joint, of course, at the top of the neck and at the base of the neck, standard Figuarts stuff, so you can get all kinds of movement out of it and positioning. I'm being a little bit careful because of the wings. The actual tail part here, whatever we're calling this piece here, it's pretty solid in the back of the head, but it pivots here, and it can also rotate, and it pivots here and also rotate, so you get some movement out of it, which is really nice. The shoulders move out, but you got to kind of adjust them and be a little bit careful because of the shoulder pads. The shoulder pads are ball jointed, but it does have trouble kind of getting out of the way. But you can see that there's a system to the shoulder pads are on a separate joint. Let's see if we can zoom in a little bit. The shoulder pads are on this separate joint piece. So the shoulder at rest is like this, but you can get the shoulder pad up, and then that's how you get the shoulder out further, which is really nice. And he's got a ball joint to give him some adjustment there. He's got a bicep swivel, pretty standard bicep swivel stuff. He's got a double jointed elbow. It has more clearance this way with the red elbow pad being there. But, you know, officially that's the design, but it's going to clash a little bit, so you can rotate it to give him more range of movement. The wrist is also ball jointed on a standard Figuarts wrist with the ball jointed wrist part that's mostly just to pop off, and then it rotates as well as pivots, which is really, really nice. I do like that range of motion. So we got the upper torso here, which is really cool. You've got this sort of piece here, which kind of gets out of the way so you can have like full ab crunch ability here, and it can crunch back, which is really nice. And then the waist swivel. We got hips that move out. The hips that move out here, it's kind of interesting because essentially you got this hip that moves out and then this ball joint here. So you got kind of a double range. And then that also means you can swing all the way forward and all the way back, which gives him a lot of movement. And then you got this additional pivot. So you can kind of get it, you know, because of the armor clashing, if you get his leg like out in a kick position, you can still like rotate it a bit to give it more range, which I think is pretty cool. Now for the knees, what's really impressive is that they didn't let the design stop them here. So the knees do bend all the way as far as they can. It's a single joint. It looks like it could be a double joint with a joint here and here, but there's just one at the lower part, but it's got that cut, so that way it can move fully in. So if you want him in kind of a floating position, like the end of his evolution sequence, you can totally do that because the D actually bends a significant amount, which is really good. And then the ankles here, they pivot left and they mostly pivot inward. They don't actually pivot outward. So it's kind of interesting. They pivot inward, they do pivot forward and backward, and then the toe joint also adjusts. So this gives them a good chance for balance as well as kind of kneeling poses. If you want your Gallantmon kneeling down, or your Dukemon, whichever way, if you want him kneeling down, he can totally kneel. Which for a Digimon figure that's got this much armor designed to him, that's pretty impressive. But I do really appreciate that they gave him such a nice range of articulation. And then on top of that, if you're talking articulation, here's the cape. It's got kind of a silky design to it. It's got stitching down the middle here and around the edges and around the edge on all sides. So the whole points here, this is all posable wire, so you can pose the cape however you wish, which I think is excellent. So if you do want this kneeling pose, we're going to plug the cape on now. Let's get it in there. So if you want him in that kneeling position with the cape, totally doable, and the cape stays out of the way, which is pretty amazing. Now when we're talking about his accessories, he has alternate hands. So the first hands he's got packed in the box are these nice splayed hands, but he has another set, which are these really cool fists. Now what's really neat too is that the actual joint is not super inset, so just pulling it doesn't feel like it's going to pull out the joint or break anything. So of course he does come with the spear and the shield, his iconic weapons. The spear here, it's pretty good. I think that the paint was applied a little weird in some spots. Like there's some spots where you can just see like a line or some markings, which is really strange. And then on the base of it here, it's got that nice red and gold trim, which is pretty good. And then the shield is also looking really fantastic with the silvers, the golds, the digital hazard symbol in red, and then the digicode around the edge. But when you turn it around, you notice something unfortunate. Yeah, so I'm not a big fan of this part of the figure. It's probably my only major complaint. But in order to plug the weapons on, you have to pull the whole wrist joint out. I thought maybe with the way that the hands are sockets, it's like, for example, the hands here have ball joints, that these would be socketed, so you just plug the wrist on. With the shield, I guess it's not doable, and with the spear, I guess it would be doable, but they just decided to have a peg instead. So my question becomes, why did we have to do this system here and a different system for the hands? Why not have them on the same system? But I guess Bandai be Bandai. All right, let's see how this is gonna go. So basically, you have to kind of pull without popping the wrist off, because it's really hard if you pull the wrist out, then you gotta like grab onto this. I guess it's doable. Okay, so that's actually not too bad. This is, you know, I'm not a big fan of having to pull out the whole wrist joint, but that wasn't too painful, actually. That was actually kind of easy. All right, let's see if it'll work on this other hand here. Hey, that one came out with the fist. So as long as you get like a good grip in, where if you pull a little bit, if you put any pressure on it, it's going to pull the whole hand out, or just pull the wrist off the joint. But if you just pull that, that actually is pretty easy. Okay, so that's not really a complaint, because if that was going to be as painful as it looked like it was going to be, definitely a complaint. But hey, look at that. Now he's armored up. He looks really, really cool. So overall, the giant shield doesn't throw his balance off too much, and his elbow's not actually too restricted by the lance. It's a little bit restricted, like can only go to a full 90, but that's actually pretty good, because that gives him a lot more range of movement than the previous Dukemons. And then also with the shield, it does pivot and rotate, which is pretty good, so you can actually get it closer to his body, further out. You got a lot of options with this, which is really nice. And like I said, he still stands really good with this. He doesn't fall over. Now, if you did want to have him on a stand that gives him some more stability, he comes with one of those. So this is the typical stand we see with Digimon Figuarts that we've seen since D-Arts, big wide base for stability. This one's a shorter arm than the Alphamon and the Omegamon because those plugged in towards the back of the figure, while this one plugs in a little different. So it's kind of awkward, but in the middle here is a plastic piece that comes out, which leaves this little slot. I know how this sounds, don't worry about it. And you got to plug this piece in here, and then once you got that plugged in, you can plug him straight into the stand. This is the way a lot of Gundam stands work, and for Gundam, I don't mind it, because they're robots, but this is like a digital life form. It just looks weird and awkward, and I don't particularly like the connection there. I liked them more when they plugged into the back, but I guess they wanted to have a more clean back design. But luckily, they didn't make this the only option for attaching to the stand. It does, in fact, include a normal Tamashii stand peg piece. So you got this, and then you got these little things that you have to like break out of these little runners. I don't know why they're made like this. Now, these wear out a lot over time because of the pressure of the clear plastic on clear plastic. And I apologize for my nails. It's cold back here. Anyways, once you got this, now normally for Digimon this doesn't work because it doesn't have the weight support, but with this guy, he's got a bit of a smaller waist. So it's not going to get him into any flying poses, but if you want the stand just for support, it's going to work because height-wise, it fits to Gallantmon there. But yeah, it works with the waist clip. He is going to slide left and right because his waist is just so small. But I think it's a little bit more, I don't know, it looks a little bit better than the plug up the middle of his crotch, because that just looks really strange. But that's going to be the only way you're going to do it if you want him in a flying pose. But if you want him on the ground, which is probably what I'm going to do because I have enough of them in flying poses, I think this is going to work for me, as just having the normal clip. All right, so I've been mentioning how this guy is a new mold, and what do I mean by that? Of course, he's a new mold. Look at him, he's beautiful. But what I mean is that with Omegamon and Alphamon, they were based on previous Digimon figure releases from Tamashii Nations. Here is the D-Arts Gallantmon from 2012 or 2013, something. He's really old. He's almost a decade old at this point. They could have repainted this guy, made him premium color, given them the cape, and I probably would have been happy, but I'm really, really glad they made this new mold. So first of all, we gotta look at some details here, because obviously the big one is that this guy's taller. He definitely is taller. He's not so squat, and in a way that even though typically the Figuarts go for more of a video game look because of the previous molds, D-Arts were definitely a video game look. This is definitely more anime inspired, which I really like to see because I think the Digimon anime is its defining media. So it's really nice to see that here. So for example, he just has a completely different proportion design. First things first, the shields, it's actually bigger on the D-Arts version and the symbol is more spread out, but you can see that's a different shield. The spear here, of course, it's like completely symmetrical. This one's got kind of the lip part to it, which also gave it some more issues with clashing into the armor. And then in general, you can see that the reds and the golds are brighter here. The shoulder pads are not so sharp and pointy. The knee pads are not as defined. Let's get the shields like completely out of the way here, because the shields will always get in the way. It's interesting, they did keep the same joint system. I did forget this when I pulled this guy out. He does have like the same joint system. You have to replace the wrists, but it works a lot better on this guy. But you can see here, the waist is thicker, the legs are thicker. The feet are smaller. Like he had huge honkin' feet. He has more the smaller boot style. And in general, you're getting kind of a video game versus anime look in Figuarts, which usually when I do these kind of comparisons is between like a Figuart and a model kit. So it's nice to see this comparison because I think I actually overall really do like the new SH Figuarts Dukemon. Even though I have appreciated the D-Arts till now, this is going to be the Dukemon on the shelf. He's just gorgeous in so many ways. And I really, really do like that. So while the colors maybe more video game, more premium than the anime color tones. He definitely has more of a mold that more reflects the anime, I think, than the original D-Art did, because the D-Art was going for a video game. Also, the D-Art had that really terrible plastic cape with the separation in the middle that never looked good, and the thing on the back here, as the shield's in the way, the thing in the back here, it does that. It's not as impressive, so I'm really, really glad. I mean, here's the digital hazard symbol's bigger than it is here. Or is that the Royal Knight symbol? I forget exactly. I keep calling them all the digital hazard. I know the one in the chest is. Anyways, side notes of me not recognizing symbols well aside, I think overall, I definitely think this is a massive upgrade to the original D-Arts release, but it's kind of nice that they're different. I do appreciate that. Now, we haven't seen an update to Beelzemon. He's the only D-Art to not receive an update of any kind, and he still is looking really small next to Gallantmon, but with the way the Digimon anime has portrayed the sizes of characters, I actually don't even know if this is accurate. Someone else decide that in the comments. But he just looks tiny next to Gallantmon. But overall, I mean, it would be really nice to get an upgrade to D-Art's Beelzemon, because now that we got the Gallantmon update, he's the only one that hasn't been updated yet, which is kind of a bummer. Now, while I don't have the Figuarts standard Dukemon Gallantmon, and I'm not even sure if I'm going to get it because of how much I like this, I do have the Anime Heroes Beelzemon, which I think, you know, it just makes more sense in my brain that they'd be closer to the same size. But, you know, scale charts are going to be scale charts for whoever decides scale charts. But for me, I do like the way that this Beelzemon looks next to this Gallantmon. Even if this guy's only like a $20 American figure versus the $110 Japanese import, it's nice that we have so many different figure lines for Digimon now to kind of compare and contrast to. So, of course, we had to compare Omegamon to Dukemon Gallantmon. They're both Royal Knights. They're both the first premium color Digimon Figuart and the most recent, though I really think the premium color tag is going away with this guy because he's completely new. But they do look really nice. I think this mold of Omegamon still holds up well, even next to this very fancy new Gallantmon, and that's good to see considering you would want them in a group display. And then, of course, here he is with Alphamon Oryuken mode. Really do like, again, the way these all look like they go in the same line together between the premium colors, between the new molding. Even though Alphamon is an older mold, once again, looks really nice with Dukemon Gallantmon. And as per usual with me, just showing off a little bit, here's Dukemon Gallantmon with some other Guilmon related stuff with the Digimon Partners plush, the Digimon Figure Collection Dukemon and Guilmon, and then the recent Super Complete Selection Animation Digivice, which I really need to review because this thing is actually kind of amazing. It's really cool how much Digimon Tamers stuff has come out recently, because this is all very recent Tamers items. But it's really cool to see this Figuart be part of the lineup, and it's just really nice to get a nice premium figure from Digimon Tamers as opposed to everything being from Adventure. So overall, I think this Dukemon Gallantmon SH Figuarts Rebirth of the Holy Knight figure is really great. While he does command a high price due to being a premium color version, $110 US is a little much, Bandai, but I do feel like I got my money's worth. He feels good quality-wise, he doesn't feel too fragile, he's got a couple cumbersome things with the way the wrist sockets work for the weapons, but overall he's just beautiful and makes a great piece for display. But of course there are cheaper options, such as the Figuarts standard Dukemon model kit, and that's probably going to be better for the more budget-conscious collectors. If you're really hardcore about Digimon, though, you really can't go wrong with this thing, and it was recommended in my book if the price is justified to you. I hope you enjoyed this video and hope it helped you make a decision if you were on the fence about something. If it did help you, or if you did enjoy it, leave a like. It helps support the channel. It helps me know that you enjoy seeing Digimon videos on the channel. I love Digimon, and I can make Digimon videos forever, but if the audience isn't there for it, I can't really do it. But overall, I do really like this guy, and I look forward to the next Figuart being Anjouamon. Let me know what you think the next Figuart should be after Anjouamon. I'm pushing for Frontier ones. Give me a Kaiser Greymon, Bandai. I would love a Kaiser Greymon Figuart. Also, be sure to subscribe and hit the notification bell. There will be more Digimon videos in the future, such as another Vital Bracelet video, and of course the Super Complete Selection Animation D-Arcs once I get a way to show off all the features of these without getting YouTube copyright. And of course, we will be doing more Digimon stuff after that, depending on what comes out. And there's plenty more on the channel if you haven't checked it out already. Also, be sure to check out Hero Club at hero-club.com for Digimon news and more, and my awesome graphic designer on Twitter at darkclaw643. And until next time, this is Soundout saying goodbye.